And I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to discuss with you is that there are many reasons to doubt. But all you need is one. He had no motive. This does not add up to a motive. This does not add up to desperation. This does not add up to a sudden change. He goes from being loving and caring and kind and helpful, a wonderful brother, a wonderful uncle, just like that, and he horrendously murders his entire family. Does that make any sense? It doesn't make sense. Not with this math.
But ladies and gentlemen, what kind of a man, what kind of a family man shuts off his cameras and drives to Colts Neck, New Jersey in the middle of the night? What kind of a man goes there, rips off an electrical panel, shuts off the switch on the generator to ensure, despite all of the electrical backups, that power is not coming on? Now, his phone's home, so he's not getting those messages, I don't believe, from his brother. He doesn't get that 318 message which says, I'm going outside to check the generator. What kind of a man, what kind of a family man, what kind of a brother lies in wait for his brother to come outside in the dark, only to be shot 5 times? Only to have his older brother walk up, likely very calmly, place a gun to the back or side of his hooded head and pull that trigger one last time. What kind of a family man is that? As if that was not enough, what kind of a man then chooses to go inside that house in the darkness to go and find his sister-in-law and 11-year-old Jesse Caneiro and 8-year-old Sophia Caneiro? Couldn't he have just stopped with his brother? At least he did that quickly and painlessly. What kind of a man does this?
And you heard testimony from Mr. Cardenas, the expert, who talked about a slayer statute. And he testified that under that statute, if someone is accused, or convicted, rather, of murdering or being responsible for the death of the policyholder, they get cut off from it, right? And that makes sense, because you're not going to reward a murderer with the life insurance money. You can't kill people to get the money. But what that means is, because Paul and Corey are 50%, I guess, sort of like backup beneficiaries, right? Because originally it's the family. But if they're all deceased, the money gets split between Corey and Paul. Unless Paul is convicted of murdering the family, then it all goes to Corey. All you heard was, no, we didn't follow that. Well, we know that Paul's here and Corey's not. Why not look into it? Why not investigate it? Why not rule out a hypothesis? We've had over 7 years to investigate this, and there was no information presented to you.
If he was set up, why would that person, Corey Caneiro, whoever it is, why would they then swap out the barrel to that other Sig Sauer? Why would they want to make it difficult for law enforcement? Chris Clayton from New Jersey State Ballistics. Why would they want to make it difficult for him to make a ballistics match? It doesn't make any sense. And then, where did we find the backpack with the barrel? We found it in the Porsche Cayenne, Susan Caneiro's vehicle. The one that he happened to pull out of the garage, right? The one that they sat in at some point on Tilton Drive, and the one that they drove to the police department. Now, I don't think there's a chance in this world that he thought, A, he was going to end up at the Ocean Township Police Department, and B, that car, his wife's, was going to be searched that day. But if you're setting Paul Caneiro up, you're putting that backpack, the barrel, the silencer, whatever else is in there, all his worldly possessions, you're putting it in the Macan, aren't you? Why wouldn't you put it in the car that drives to Colts Neck and kills everybody? That's really not a great way to frame something. How would Corey or whoever have known that Paul Caneiro was going to pull the Cayenne out of the garage at 4:59 and 55 seconds or whatever it is? How would that person, how would Corey know that? The answer is they wouldn't know that. And it doesn't make any sense. If Paul was being set up, why wouldn't there be more blood in the Macan? I'm not sure I understood the argument this morning. We didn't find any blood in the Macan, right? Okay. I think we all can agree, I hope, that Macan, I think it seemed to be conceded, that Macan drives to Colts Neck in the middle of the night, and that Macan comes back at 4:08 a.m. So it's like we know the car is used. Whoever did this used that car. So whoever did this didn't leave a lot of blood. It doesn't mean that he didn't leave a lot of blood or someone else didn't leave. No matter who used the car to kill everybody, they didn't leave a lot of blood. So why, if you're trying to frame someone, why would Corey Caneiro be so careful to not contaminate the car? Because as you were told, and I'm going to tell you right now, you heard testimony first about how they didn't look for blood in the car, right? Despite there was the ALS and the blue light and all that kind of stuff that they can do, and they did, right? Maybe they didn't do it in the bathrooms. We'll talk about that. But then you heard when we called Trooper Cocky from the New Jersey State Police, right? We told you then that he brought his cadaver dog, right? A cadaver dog, obviously, is a dog that's trained to seek out and find evidence, odors of human remains. And the first place that dog went was in the Porsche Macan, and you heard that there was no indications inside, despite the thing about on his arm from giving blood that morning, which we didn't show you because we knew he gave blood. We're not trying to deceive anybody here. We knew what that was all about. But then the dog goes to the back, to the storage area in the Macan, and has a positive indication, right, for the presence of human remains. Now, you heard that it was tested and it was negative. It is what it is. Trooper Cochran told you that the dog is able to detect residual odors, right? And then the dog, if he wasn't clear that the dog kind of had a good nose for this stuff, the first thing they do when they enter the house is they find some blood on the door frame, right? And it turns out, actually, they do inquire as to where the blood came from, and it turns out it came from one of the firefighters, Sean Edson. Got a buccal swab, and ultimately it was tested, confirmed to be his DNA. Creed, the canine, then is taken off lead throughout the house, and ultimately nothing upstairs, nothing on the main floor, and then he goes down to the basement, down the stairs, through the left door, immediately into the unfinished side of the basement, where we saw that camera, where you didn't see what happened there because he shut the cameras off, right? And that dog hit for the odor of human remains, which made a lot of sense once they looked at the pile and they saw the blood and the jeans and the scarf and the shirts and the gloves with his niece and his nephew's DNA on it. So it's not like they didn't look. It actually took the dog to make sense of that. So why, if we're framing someone, are we being so careful? You've been told a lot about what wasn't done, or why they didn't follow the money, or why they didn't do this or look into Corey. But the evidence that you have, the stuff that they're really trying to get out of, trying to get away from. They didn't shut off the DVR. Man, it's transfer evidence. Oh, the ballistics, I don't know. The ballistics is pretty conclusive, I think, based upon the testimony. I'm not sure exactly where that's going. But what do these things tell you? And they tell you investigatively that Paul Caneiro did this.
But every DNA person agreed, every DNA expert, I should say, including our own, explained to you that what DNA does not tell you is the who, what, when, where, or why. DNA can't tell you how the DNA got there. It can't tell you whether there's an innocent explanation or a nefarious explanation. It can't tell you whether it was directly deposited or transferred. It can't tell you if it's contamination. It can't tell you why the DNA is there. It can't tell you the backstory. It's just a fact. And I know that DNA can be compelling, so we will talk about it. We heard from Michael Abraham. He had a very limited role. It was with respect to the electric, 15 Willowbrook. And he assisted in the context of him looking at being an electrical engineer. He assisted Detective Bordoma with determining, ultimately, that 15 Willowbrook was also an arson. Again, no surprise there. We heard from Christopher Clayton, the ballistics expert. And similar to the arson and the DNA, he told you that certain bullets matched bullets, that certain bullets matched a barrel, and that shell casings matched a receiver. He can't tell you who shot the gun. He can't tell you who used the gun. He doesn't know. He's examining this information days, weeks later. He can't tell you that Paul Caneiro is responsible for these crimes.
I will never be able to tell you how he could kill his niece and his nephew. It certainly wasn't for $17,000 on a Tiffany card or something. Clearly. But that doesn't change with Mr. Caneiro. It doesn't change with Corey Caneiro. It doesn't change with God knows who else. That motive doesn't work for anyone. But you hear that testimony because it is relevant, because it just happened. Let's keep that in mind. Hours before this happens, hours before Mr. Caneiro's up in his bedroom, doesn't have any contact that night with either of his daughters and his wife. Sitting up in the bedroom with the gun, with the laser sight, with the laser light, like kind of sitting there probably stewing. Like, you know what, Keith? No more. Like, I'm not doing your freaking chores anymore. Like, yeah, I know I stole from you, but you know what? Deal with it. I'll pay you back when I feel like it. I mean, that seems to be the trigger, the reaction. There's no issue like that with Corey or anybody else. Like, that's not a coincidence. You know, you don't get yelled at by your brother at 6:05. You don't get accused of stealing by your brother at 6:05. You don't shut off your camera at 1:28. You don't then go down to your basement and shut off the rest of your cameras at 1:31. Your car doesn't just miraculously leave at 2:07. It doesn't just miraculously show up in Colts Neck and then miraculously come back at 4:08. It's not a coincidence. That's called evidence. I'm not sure what else we can give you by way of physical, tangible evidence. Anyone who gets backed into a corner by DNA, ballistics, cameras cutting off, the car leaving in the middle of the night, they can all go, he did it. Anybody can go, Corey did it. I would suggest to you that when the evidence suggests that only one person could have done this, then the obligation as jurors. That's why you heard all for 5 weeks, you heard about why it's so believable how he could kill his brother. It's so believable. Just just understand the context and the build-up and the jealousy and the, I'm not doing this for you, Keith, anymore. I'm not coming over and fixing this, fixing that. You can understand that. But the only reason, after you execute your brother, that you make that conscious decision to walk inside that house, that dark house, betray that trust, is because the money's inside, right? The only way he gets anything, he just doesn't get anything other than, he doesn't even get anything from the businesses. Presumably it would have gone to Jennifer and the family, right? They're 50%, they're 90%. Only motivation to go in there is money. Now, does it make sense? I don't know. I struggle. Why? Why would he kill Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia? Why? The only thing you could think is that it's $1.5 million reason why. He's already killed his brother. He's going the rest of the way because he knows it's how he benefits. But assume for 1 second ago, maybe Jennifer came out and caught him, and that's why he had to do what he had to do, right? Jennifer walked out because she heard the gunshots, runs back inside, game on, right? Kids come down because they hear the commotion. I don't know what the answer is, to be quite frank with you. I don't know. I can't get inside Mr. Caneiro's house. All I know is that he did it. He did it. Because the evidence tells you he did it.